Hey guys, welcome back to CapView. So today we're going to be doing the Wonder Woman 1984 spoiler-packed full movie review. So if you guys haven't seen the film yet, it came out on the 25th of December, Christmas Day. A lot of people watched it. It came out in theaters, simultaneously also on HBO Max, which is available only in the United States. But if you guys haven't seen it, this is going to be full of spoilers. So you guys know, if you watch my channel, watch my reviews, I don't hold back. I just give you guys the whole thing, my opinion from the start to the finish, and all of the stuff that happens in between. So that's what you guys are going to see here. So let's get on with it. Now, this has been, before I start this review, let me just say, holy fucking guacamole. This has been, it's been a lot, guys. So obviously, you know, this movie was delayed like 3 times. The anticipation has built up so much with audience for such a long time. There were so many expectations on this film to perform, to do well, to maybe be something that it maybe wasn't necessarily ever going to be, but a lot of people had a lot of expectations before going into this film. So let's just start off by saying that, myself included, like, to a degree. For me though, like, and I'll explain this as I go through this review, but for me it's obviously a bit different because I'm just a super big fan of Wonder Woman, the character, you know, Gal Gadot as well as an actor. And so a lot of components of this, you know, just had me in straight away. So for me, it was like, you know, you guys want to go back to World War One? I'll go with you guys to World War One. You want to take me back to the 80s now? All right, Patty, let's go. Go back to the 80s. Like, whatever you guys want, I'm in for the ride, because Wonder Woman, the first film, was so amazing. It was so inspiring, so empowering. There was so many good things about it, and I think it was really universally liked for so many of the things it did right, and so many of the things that a lot of us movie fans, you know, women, a lot of different groups felt recognized and, you know, portrayed on the big screen, and just, it was such a great film that really touched a lot of people. So the first one had so much, you know, applause and so much adoration that I feel like this second one really just became this entity in itself, and it kept growing and growing through anticipation and getting delayed, you know, due to the Voldemort. Still gonna call it the Voldemort. So due to the, you know, worldwide situation that has been going on, you know, not just Wonder Woman, a lot of films obviously got delayed, but basically there was a lot of expectation and a lot of stuff riding on this film in many different ways. In terms of audience, in terms of financially, in terms of the movie industry in itself, in many ways. So, you know, it was a lot to live up to. The bar was set very high with the first Wonder Woman. So anyway, again, let's just get that out of the way starting off. So, Wonder Woman 1984 is the sequel. Well, technically, it's a prequel. Well, it's not. It's a prequel to Justice League. There's been a lot of Wonder Woman films. So we've seen Diana go from World War One with Steve Trevor, which was her OG Wonder Woman film. We had seen her though previously, present day, in Justice League. So that was like 2016, I think. And then now we've gone back through her journey into 1984. So this is obviously after Steve Trevor. Now, again, Gal Gadot returns as Wonder Woman. Fantastic, amazing. What else can you say about her? She is Wonder Woman. She's just Diana Prince. All-encompassing Diana Prince. Patty Jenkins, of course, returns to direct. Zack Snyder produced on this. We also have Steve Trevor returning, so Chris Pine. Kristen Wiig was cast as Cheetah, which was controversial, but we'll get to that again. And then we have Pedro Pascal, who plays the main villain in this film. So, the film itself. Now, I'm going to go through and try and be quick about this because my reviews go for a while. But I'm going to go through my opinions and views of how I felt about this film watching it for the first time. I, like everybody else, was in anticipation. I was nervous. You know, there were like early critic reviews that came out. I don't pay attention to a lot of stuff, but you know, it's hard being on social media following something that's so big, you know, and especially with the Voldemort situation, a lot of people made so much more out of this. There was so much emphasis, like I said, on this film doing well, performing well. And so it was kind of unavoidable seeing certain things. And again, I am a fan as well, so it's really hard to kind of tear yourself away from these little teasers that you get. So I did very well though to avoid any major spoilers. I stayed off the internet for a good 4 days, or anything that was anything to do with Wonder Woman. So I was good. I didn't get spoiled by anything, so that was fantastic. So I went into this with pretty much my own personal opinions and expectations, like anybody else would have. For me, I just wanted Wonder Woman to be, well, I knew Gal Gadot was going to do a good job, to be honest with you. So I was a little bit nervous what they might do with Diana as the character, and how they might change her, and how she would obviously look and be in the 80s. You know, obviously being around that long, you're going to change a few times, you know. So I was a little concerned as to what Diana was going to look like and how she was going to be represented, because of the representation in the first film, and how they portrayed her as this really strong Amazonian, you know, warrior, princess, god, you know, larger than life hero. So I was just a little concerned that they might have maybe minimized that. That was my concern with Diana. Other than that, my other concern was Cheetah. I didn't want it to look CG, too CG. I didn't want it to look like cats. A lot of people had that same concern. But I was pleasantly surprised by that. So that was really actually quite good. And Gal Gadot, again, she did a really good job. Now, for me, I'm going to go through the film. So some of the really awesome things for me, there were so many parts of this film that were so awesome and mind-blowing, like truly, that were just, I was in awe to just see on screen. Like it was the wonder of it all, pardon the pun, but really, truly, it was just this beautiful, like the cinematography was fantastic, especially the start sequence. There were so many really clean, nice shots. There were some really beautiful visual effects implemented into this, and also some not so great ones. But there were a lot of moments that for me just were like mind blowing to see. You know, this character in live action on my screen in 4K. It was beautiful. It was amazing. So, in saying that, there were a lot of really good points to this film. But in saying that, I will say that this film is definitely not the successor. Wonder Woman, the first film, is the OG. That is definitely a better film, by far, I have to say, compared to this film. But usually, you know, sequels don't usually do as good as the first one. And again, that's one of the major reasons is because people liked it so much that they get this tunnel vision version in their mind of what it's supposed to look like. Now, this film is obviously set in the 80s, so we've gone into a different era. So that's the first thing. Secondly, Steve Trevor, I'm trying to get to it. So Steve Trevor comes back. That's not Steve Trevor. So it's more like Steve Trevor's soul essence, entity, situation in someone else's body. So Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman still have that really cool dynamic between them, that teamwork. Their connection is really well done. It's still there. You know, that's very much credit going to Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, independently as actors on their own, with these performances. That's not anything special, no special effects, no CG cool stuff put in there. That's just them acting alongside each other because of that relationship they built from the first one, and because they're great actors, truly. That's the other thing. There was some really great acting, I feel like, in this film. There were a lot of moments where there was great cinematography, mind-blowing moments for the character of Diana, Prince of Wonder Woman. You know, really great acting. The opposite side of that, of the things that weren't so great about it, was the editing. I feel like there could have always been different things. Now, everyone's always going to say what different things they would have liked. There could have been different edits, I feel like, done. Other than that, the script, I didn't like some of the writing. There were plot holes that were put in here that were clearly in here, that it was sometimes very hard to ignore. Now, for me, you know, for me going into this film, it's very much a fictional movie. You know, this is about a fictional character that, yes, they are in live action and they make us feel immersed in their world, but you really have to put on your imagination cap to go back into the 80s, first of all, and secondly, into this fantasy world essentially created, really, truly, with Wonder Woman in it, with Wonder Woman in existence. So we got to do that going into this film. Now, for me, I felt a lot like from the start of this film, my grievances or nitpicks, I guess you could say, is the intro. Some of the moments that we saw in the trailers, you had that really cool 80s beat that had everybody bopping in their seats watching the trailers. The second trailer had that like dum 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 dum, like that really like pumped up like action sequence kind of music. And then you had in the trailer the moment where she's like running down the street in the city. That was really like that. It was just jam packed beat that they had behind it that really amped up that moment in the film. That disappointed me because sadly that was not in this film. So the intro didn't have that cool 80s music coming through, and that scene with the running down the street, it was still cool, but the music was lacking behind it. And the score is so important, as much as the acting, the cinematography, and the dialogue is, if there's dialogue. So the score is very important, and that was lacking for me in those specific moments, especially because we had seen them in trailers portrayed a different way, and then it was edited different, post-production and into the final version of the film. So that was disappointing. The score was done by Hans Zimmer, so you would expect great things, and I didn't like the score. I hate to say it, but I didn't like the score on the opening sequence. Now, the opening sequence, we open up at Themyscira. It's beautiful. It was awesome to go back into that world. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen around in common that people have, that they liked about the first one, to dive into Themyscira and the Amazons and Diana's world in that way. It was so cool to see what they did also with this like competitive like Iron Man version of an Amazonian competitive course. That was so dope. That was so cool. I just wanted to see more of that world. The more they showed me, the more I was like, oh my god, and like it was so cool. The start when they opened up with that big arena, I was like, are we playing Quidditch? Like, is this Harry Potter? But it was actually so well done. I adored it. Little Diana also, that was really well done. The dialogue was good there. It was beautiful. Again, my only nitpick with that first sequence was the score. I wanted to have I really would have liked the intro to have been that 80s rainbow of the DC Warner Brothers logos, and then have the names that they had the names in such large writing through that opening sequence with the music sounding very Indiana Jones, and they had this beautiful cinematography, shots of landscape and this creation that they made of this world. And then they had this, Hans Zimmer fucking opera music going that just reminded me of Indiana Jones, and I think it was just a little bit too close for me. I would have preferred if they had the 80s music going, some 80s theme going, to just straight away introduce you to the fact that it's a film set in the 80s. And had the colourful, logos like they did in the trailers, and then maybe had that music going, and then had the, the actors' names come through. Because it really took me out of it straight away, as soon as it started, to have this beautiful, out of this world music, this score, and then this, visual awesomeness of the world that they had shown, that they had created. This fantasy land that doesn't exist. To put you there, and then have Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig flashing in giant letters across the screen, killing this beautiful moment that they were trying to create. That was disappointing to me initially, straight away. That disappointed me. It took me way out of it. I was like, can you please stop with the writing? I want to see the beautiful ocean and the sand and the horses and the Amazons. Show me Themyscira. Get this out of my face. So that upset me. If I didn't like that, I wish they would have again put, maybe put the Warner Brothers logo and had the 80s music, and then had Chris Pine, Gal Gadot, whatever, and then maybe put the DC logo and kept it going for a good minute to do the intro, and then cut to the dun 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 Hans Zimmer, cut, and then you're in the movie, and then you see Themyscira, and then it goes from there. That would have been what I would have done. But the fuck do I know, right? But like, that's what I would have done. That's how I would have introduced it. I didn't like the big writing, you know. I feel like to a degree though they were trying to make it feel more like a Hollywood blockbuster, and it took away a little bit from the, you know, it was ingenuine a little bit to me, again from the scene that they were trying to create, like trying to simultaneously put me into the movie, into these characters, into this immersive world, but then you've got these names going through of actors. So that, I didn't like that. That's a nitpick for me. Besides that, the first probably 20 minutes of the film was lacking for me. I remember watching it while they was trying to introduce the characters, you know, Barbara Minerva, Kristen Wiig as Barbara Minerva, you know, they're showing Diana. And for me, there were scenes that just didn't click between the two of them. I don't know why, but Gal Gadot, I don't know what was going on with Diana there, but it just didn't click. I didn't feel it. The vibe felt different, the tone felt weird, and I just felt like it was poorly written, poorly edited. I don't know, it wasn't there. And I remember watching it feeling a bit like it could have been. The thought that went through my head is how much they fought for this film to be shown in cinemas, like this big blockbuster film. And all I could think while I was watching those scenes, and again, we're only talking about the first, like, maybe 15 minutes of the film, I should say. Not including the Themyscira scene, right after, directly after, when we get introduced to Barbara. And by the way, I love the Barbara stuff. Like, but yeah, we'll get to that. So that, I didn't like the interactions between Diana and Barbara. The initial introduction, it felt weird. Like Diana was being weird. I didn't get it, and I didn't like it. And it lagged a little bit for me. The pacing through this film was kind of slow at times, and I don't know, I just didn't feel connection there, and the warmth of Diana as you do after, which, you know, it happens shortly after, and then those moments are sort of like replenished, if you will, but it wasn't there at that time. And I remember thinking that they fought so hard to put this into theaters, and it felt like a Netflix movie. At that point, it felt like a Netflix film. And that was disappointing to me. But again, right after, I got into it. So, first of all, Kristen Wiig as Barbara Minerva. Let's get to Cheetah. Kristen Wiig as Barbara Minerva is classic Kristen Wiig. She plays this mousy, nerdy, shy, geeky, you know, kind of character. That's Barbara Minerva. I wish they would have made her showcase more of her smarts. I wish they wouldn't have made her so focused on being pretty and liked by dudes, but I kind of get the mentality. It's sad, but I do get it. So I wish we saw a little bit more of Barbara. I feel like a lot of it was rushed too. But yeah, I wish we saw a little bit more of Barbara. But I liked the interaction they had, you know, when they were having lunch together. That was pretty cool. And I like the, you know, when she's trying to like walk in the hills and she stumbles, like, that's just funny. Seeing this underdog character, I always like it. It's cool. So I enjoyed that. Then we have Pedro Pascal's Max Lord being introduced. Now, I don't know about this character. It was Max Lord was conflicting as a character. You find yourself not really. I didn't find myself ever really hating him, to be fair, as like this really big bad villain. He wasn't really. He was just a really sad dude that had gone through a lot of shit and wanted more, which, you know, you see with Diana's speech later on in the film towards the end. But really, you know, he's just another dude that was down on his luck and just, you know, went through some shit and really just wanted to make his son proud, and got lost and turned around through being, it's like this Joker-esque kind of vibe there, where he just, you know, got pushed down and just so determined to be something more that he overcompensated, which this is where he has this in common with Barbara, or rather I should say she had it in common with him. So they both have these characters that, you know, they're not where they want to be in life. So I will say though, I've not seen anything. I've not seen Pedro Pascal in anything, I don't believe. I think I might have seen him in one thing, briefly. I've never seen this dude. I know he's known, but I've never seen him. And I was impressed by the performance. I believed Max Lord as he played Max Lord. And I'm not saying necessarily the character was written as well, and some of the things that were done were kind of questionable at times, like it didn't really make sense. But again, got to put your fictional imagination cap on and just go with it at times. But I really love the acting. I think he was very good in the role. I think he was very good. Chris Pine was pretty solid. There were moments with Steve Trevor. I mean, first of all, he comes back and he's in another dude's body. Now, this is probably my main issue with the film. Honestly, there were some plot holes. There were some edits I didn't really love. There was a little bit of dialogue in the writing that I was like, that why? But you know, all these things, there were things that I could get over and I could overlook and just exist in this world and enjoy it thoroughly, really, truly. I think it's part of immersing yourself. You have to really believe it. Otherwise, if you don't have your imagination cap on, you're going to sit there picking apart and, like, you know, pulling things and dissecting them and seeing them in the, you know, in these realistic, it's like realism, and that's not what this is. You know, these movies are fictional, so gotta have imagination. And saying that, I feel like a lot of this felt like a kids movie. In the start, you know, you have these like classic goons, like very Warner Brothers, like cartoon animated kind of sequences and scenes. Diana is clearly protecting her identity in a weird way, where everybody sees her and then she's like, shh, like, you know, and she throws her, and she hits the cameras and then destroys the security system and then presents them, you know, like all tied up. Like, it's very like cartoony and animated, kind of out of the comics. So I kind of liked it because I knew what it was, but at the same time I didn't like it because it was so cheesy. I can take a little bit of cheese. It's expected. It's a superhero film. You have to take a bit of cheese, but it was a bit too cheesy for me, and it felt like a kid's film a lot of the time, and that had me very disappointed, because I'm all for appealing to younger audiences, of course. Lots of young girls are going to watch this, and young boys, and they should feel inspired and be able to relate without the story being too complex for them. But I feel like the mistake here might have been that they sacrificed the adult audience, and the balance didn't weigh up in trying to please younger fans, perhaps, and put in these like cartoony, like gimmicky kind of sequences with Wonder Woman in the 80s. But I mean, the whole genre, the whole 80s thing was like this cheesy time period when you look back at it, really. And I think people forget that. I think people forget what it kind of was like, and this is how they decided to create this world. So I was like, alright, hey, I'll go with it. But I didn't love the sequence at the start with the bad guys. I thought it could have been done better, the mall scene. But yeah, so Steve Trevor, let's move on to Steve. So Steve Trevor comes back in another dude's body. So I'm going to go back to this because I said this was my main problem with the film. It was the only thing I had a real problem with. Everything else was kind of like, but it wasn't actually a real issue. This was an issue for me. Now, in the film, there is a scene where Barbara gets harassed by this drunk dude in a park, and, you know, Wonder Woman, Diana, saves her. And it's empowering, and it's cool, and it's great to see women helping other women. That was a cool scene. And look, people need to stop being so nitpicky about this and the fact that it was a dude being creepy and sleazy. I mean, dudes are creepy and sleazy. That happens. It's not like you're gonna find, like, most of the time you're not gonna find a woman in the dark at a park drinking alone harassing a dude. Or a woman. Like, women don't do that to other women. It's just, I'm sorry, but the people that are oversensitive about the situation, trying to make it seem like men were portrayed like disgusting pigs in this film, it's just simply not true, because those people sadly exist, and I think that's just something that is realistic that people don't want to face. And it's kind of ironic that there's so much that's unrealistic in this film that people have a problem with, but then when there's realistic stuff in there, people also have a problem with that. And it's like, look, let's just let it go and stop making it a sexist issue, and just have a creepy dude and have a woman helping another woman, and that was fine. So that was good. I liked that moment in the film. What I didn't like is what followed with Steve. Now, Steve comes back via a wish that Diana makes internally. She obviously wishes that he was back in her life, in this world, whatever. And he comes back in another dude's body. So I didn't like this. I didn't like it. I would have been okay with it if they kept it very romanticized and fantasy and nothing happened. In the sense that he was there, he helped her, he served a purpose, and it wasn't sexualized or romanticized in a sexual way. Obviously there's going to be romance there, an emotional connection. They love each other. He's the love of her life. But it was the sex thing for me. You know, the fact that, you know, she says, even after it's so clearly, it's so made so clear that he's another person. Literally, Steve just looks in the mirror and he's like, oh, what about this and that? And he's talking about this other dude. And she's like, I just see you. Which is... that was just too much for me. It was too hard. I tried so very hard to keep myself in the romanticized fiction of this world. Because, again, like, if you read these, you know, books and stuff, not written now. Written, if it was written back then, it wouldn't have been... how am I going to say this? It wouldn't have been an issue of consent. It wouldn't have been perceived that way. Like, yes, technically, realistically, this day and age, that was a bad choice. It was a mistake, I believe. Especially for a character like Diana. Especially considering what they did with the first Wonder Woman. It was a poor choice to choose to go that route specifically and to take it as far as it went. Again, I try and look at it from all angles, and for me, if it was at a different time period, this would have been accepted, and it would have been romanticized, and it wouldn't have even been a thought, I think, in most people's minds, or at least it wouldn't have been such a blown out of proportion issue that it is now. However, we're not in that day and age, and this is the time that we're living in where consent is a big deal, and to have a scene where you're empowering women, and in the following scene with Kristen Wiig's character where she says no, and then she's like, no, and dude keeps going, and then she beats the crap out of him, because it's so very clearly seen when you look in her eyes and he's looking at her that he's not going to stop. He's going to try and get what he wants, and she's going to stop him. That was empowering for me too. I'm sorry, but it was. I liked that scene. I thought it was really well done. So again, the letdown here is Steve Trevor coming back in another guy's body and Diana sleeping with him. It becomes an issue of consent for a lot of viewers watching this film, and I think a lot of people probably, sadly, like myself, were taken out of that moment again because of the way it was done. A better way that it could have obviously been done is that, again, even if he came back in someone else's body, and let's just say he was here for a day and all he did was help, you know, fight bad guys, I don't think people would have had as much issue with it, taken up as much issue with it. But because they tried to romanticize this connection, and don't get me wrong, it's so sad that it's taken away because of that moment. Really, for me, it was a moment in the guy's apartment that really took me out of it. The rest of it, I believed it, I felt it. I was in the romanticized bubble that they wanted to create between Steve and Diana. I was right there with them. It was beautiful. It was magical. It was this love reunited, and it was beautiful. It really was, except for that moment when it wasn't so great. So that was my only issue with the Steve part. There was a lot of crying in this film. It was very emotional, and a lot of people, I think, were expecting this to be an action-packed sequence after sequence, and this warrior Diana like she was in the 2017 version. That's not what we get in this film. You know, Diana is a lover, not a fighter, in many, many ways. She is multifaceted as a character. And a lot of people, maybe mainstream audience members, don't get this about Diana. She is not just this dominating Amazon warrior, warrior, really. She's got the strength, but her strength comes in truth, and it comes in love. She's like the Aphrodite of superheroes, really. And I think a lot of people didn't get that. And so a lot of this movie, she played defense, really. You know, she wasn't trying to fight. And a lot of this is showing Diana still growing up. You know, you see the sequence when she's young and she's, you know, she cheats, and so technically she doesn't win. I was so frustrated, by the way, when she went to throw that spear and they pulled her away. I was like, no! I was like, she was so close, she did so good. And then, you know, she's like, but you cheated. And I'm just like, she did what was necessary, okay? She was creative, she was imaginative, she was resourceful, she went down a whole fucking... like, that was cool. She should have won anyway. But the lesson wasn't learned there. Then you see it later on when she gets Steve back. She says, you know, I just want this one thing. Why can't I have this one thing? Why can't I have you? I won't give you up. And then when she finally does, in probably one of the most heartbreaking scenes, god damn it, I'm not going to talk about it because I'm going to cry again. Shit, son. Okay, this was like... that was so well done. That scene, I mean, it was a little rushed. Like, it was like, it was a little bit rushed, but then the moment you're there in that moment, and Steve's eyes, and they're just connecting, and the moment you see Diana break down and realize that she has to once again give up Steve. Although, technically, in the first one, he sacrificed because he knew he had to make the sacrifice. This time, it's Diana who knows she has to sacrifice him and let him go again. And it was so heartbreaking to see that again. And, you know, he's like, you know, the world needs you. And he says these beautiful things, and you see, like, the performance by Gal Gadot in that moment, that stood out for me. That was beautiful. I could feel her love and adoration for... it was just right there. She did fantastic, and I don't think enough credit has been given to her for her acting and her portrayal, her growth of Diana as a character. And I got the whole plot of Diana as a character in this film. I think a lot of people maybe didn't, but I did. And for me, my version of how I interpreted it was that she was still this young girl who still didn't understand the lessons of life and the truth that matters, and that at the end of the day, it's all we have to go forward, to inspire, to keep going. And sacrifices have to be made. And in that moment, that's when I think she realizes, and that's when she grows up, and that's when it all changes and shifts for her. That moment that she renounces her wish, and she lets go and pulls herself away from Steve. She says, I can't say goodbye, you know, I'll never love again. You feel these, like, romantic, like, tropes put in there of this, like, girl becoming a woman and ascending to, like, this character who she then becomes. And then she, you know, doesn't shut off herself from humanity the way that it's portrayed in Justice League, but she clearly doesn't love again, you know, and a part of her is shut off, very much so. But you see it, you see the pain in her being, in her soul, as she moves away from Steve, and then she starts running, because once she renounces her wish, she gets her powers back, which, by the way, she loses halfway through the film because of, if you wish for something, it's going to take something from you. Barbara wished to be more like Diana, so she got all her strength and stuff. A part of that moment too is I thought that at one point Barbara got, like, it took away from Diana and gave to Barbara, but really it was independent, it wasn't the same thing. So it was a little bit confusing with the wishing stone at times. Again, like I said, there were some plot holes and things that weren't really explained as well as they could have been. But when Diana runs away and she starts running and she's doing that sequence where she's running and she lassos and all of that, that was just heartbreaking but also beautiful. There were so many, again, like, really amazing scenes in here that blew my mind. The other one was when they were flying, they had this sequence where they fly on a jet, and Steve is just, you know, there are jokes, like they make jokes where he's this fish out of water, similar to how Diana was in the first one. But also Steve is in, like, awe of, like, what human beings have created, what the world has become. Like, he goes on the escalator and he's like, whoa. He sees a train, you know, he sees these big fighter planes, and all he wants to do is fly one. And they fly one, and Diana, you know, talks about this invisibility cloak thing that she learnt from her, like, her dad or whatever. And I liked that, by the way, that moment. I think it was a bit rushed though. But I liked it, and then they put this, like, invisible thing, and it becomes an invisible jet, and they fly. There's this scene where they fly through fireworks. It's beautiful. Like, God, it's beautiful. Like, again, I don't want to take away from this film. There was so much that was good about it, and a lot of people, like, shitting on this film, and it was beautiful. creatively as well. Not just how it was shot, but how it was put together and how it was portrayed. And then the final version of it, it was really beautiful. That moment was gorgeous and emotional and connected, and it's just great. Like, they were just two people equals together, and it was beautiful. Again, then there's that moment where she has to say goodbye and she starts running and she lassos, and then she remembers what he says about flying. And again, one of the best moments for me in this film, this is another one of them, which is when Diana flies. Finally, we get to see her fly. She's more gliding, to be fair, but God, it was so cool. And that was really more like of the reason that, like, that was really more the time that I was sitting there scrutinizing it, but not in a bad way. Just observing and immersing myself and being so excited with delight of what I was seeing. Like, to see live action Wonder Woman flying like Superman, which was also kind of cool. It reminded me a little bit of like, Clark learning to fly for the first time. And to see like what moves she does, like she does this thing and she's flying through there like that. And it was so cool. So very cool. It was beautiful also because she had, Steve's words there and it helped her, and that was a really awesome fucking moment. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Wonder Woman flying in the third film. But yeah, that was really dope. And then the last thing is, of course, Cheetah. Now, Cheetah, I think, was done fairly well considering what the expectations were. It wasn't done very cheesy. I liked it. I thought she looked like Kristen Wiig for the most part. I thought it was well done. I thought it was so cool when they did the suit of armor thing and she's like tearing it apart. Also, by the way, with the suit of armor, the OG suit of armor, I was pretty sure it was Linda Carter. Someone correct me, by the way, if you watch this, but I was certain it was Linda Carter in that sequence. So when they had the suit of armor and she's like going up against man and she sacrifices herself to like save everybody and all the other Amazons, so they run away, I was sure that was Linda Carter, like from the eye and the way she looked up like that. I thought it was her. And then, we get to see like the cameo at the end where, post credit scene, we get to see where it is in fact an homage and a tribute that is paid, besides the whole costume design, by the way, for the whole film. But there's this, she's actually it's a cameo appearance by the famous Linda Carter who portrayed Wonder Woman in the TV show, the OG Wonder Woman. So she actually has a cameo at the end of the film, which is really cool. So that could suggest that she may or may not come back, for the third one. That would be so cool if she comes back for another cameo, and she's like, gives this speech to Diana. Speaking of speeches and Diana, by the way, the ending with the big showdown. Now, my only grievances with that is I wish the fight with Cheetah was longer. It was pretty cool though, but I wish it was longer. I wish Cheetah got more as well, by the way. I think she should have been made more formidable. I wanted to see more scenes with her. I also was slightly disappointed with the sequence, the scene in the White House where we saw in the trailers where, Kristen Wiig says, people like you have had everything while people like me have had nothing. There was oomph in that when we saw the trailers. In the final version, it wasn't there. The way it was shot, she was further away too. It was like a long shot. I didn't like it. It was really interesting though, seeing Diana so broken down. She got shot by bullets. It was a whole thing. I don't want to say too much because I want you guys to watch this film. But I wish that there were more action sequences. I think everybody kind of does. I don't necessarily need that Warrior of 2017, although that was so fucking dope, those moments. And again, that momentum wasn't there. Especially like that scene where she leaves Steve Trevor and she does the run thing and she's crying. It shouldn't have been this emotional, depressing music. It should have pumped into gear and then amped it up and done that da-da-da-da-da music that we got in the trailer and like shown, because that's what it was showing in the film. By what it was showing, it was like, okay, now she's letting go and she's getting stronger and she's angry and she's and then she lassos, and that's the whole point of it. And I feel like the music didn't match that moment, sadly. So that kind of disappointed me again, like, and so the final showdown, I guess, if you will, Kristen Wiig's character, besides having the strength, actually transforms into Cheetah, and they have this big showdown fight. I wish it was done longer though. Max Lord, not really such a tough villain to beat, really. Didn't like the end scene, by the way, where he's so strong through wishes that she can't get through this weird wind force situation that's going on. I didn't get that. It was weird. I did though, however, like where he's under the light and he's looking up, and it's like, that was really cool. I also really loved, as I said, going back to speeches, I thought the speech that Diana gave at the end of it was beautiful. To have everybody shown, different people, different faces, you know, representing different cultures all around the world, all these people that have gone through all these things, that have made these wishes, renouncing their wish, you know, coming together, believing in the truth and what the cost is, and basically all coming together. That showcase of humanity is what Diana is. It's who she it's who she represents. She represents the humanity, the truth, and the love of people in people. That's what she does. She brings out. She's a beacon of hope, as Batman would say. And that was beautiful. That was really cool. And I think again that took all this like full circle showcase of what Diana became by letting go of Steve, by letting go of these this ideology, this childlike mentality to a degree of innocence, and just continuously defending what man should be, rather than guiding them and being the leader and stepping up to show what they can be and bring that out in them. And I think again that's showcased further on, even though we saw it first in Justice League, you know. That's why Batman says that to her, you know, he says, beacon of hope, and why aren't you? So we see that in this, you know, that speech at the end was beautiful, it was inspirational, it was powerful, and that was really well done. So I'm happy with that. Overall, I liked the film. I didn't love it like I did the first one. I liked it though. I certainly didn't see as many problems as people are seeing. I thought it was pretty fucking awesome. There were so many mind-blowing, awesome parts for me. Again, I'm biased though, I guess, because I love the character. I just love seeing these you know, heroes, larger than life heroes brought to live action on the big screen. I just think it was fantastic to see Themyscira again. I literally was watching this film for so much of it with a smile on my face, legit in just delight, like a kid, like, you know, just it was beautiful, it was magical, and I'm so thankful that these films still exist and are getting made. So for me, there was more to like about it than I didn't like, and the things that I didn't like, they just weren't enough for me to be, you know, hating or anywhere near that on the film. I think this film deserves a lot of respect, a lot of credit, and yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it. So I would give this film out of 10. Now, I never did an OG Wonder Woman review, but I adored that film. So, you know, if I had done a review back then of the first Wonder Woman film, I probably would have rated it like a 9.5 out of 10. I really loved that film. Very minor things that I didn't like about it. This film I would probably give, I'm going to say a 7 out of 10. Yeah, a 7 out of 10. So if you guys know, my ratings are like anything that's like a 5 or below is like pretty average. This is a 7. It's above average. It was a good film. So yeah, I liked it. Again, I didn't love it though. There were issues with it. I'm not going to lie to you. There were problems with it. Problems with the script. Some problems with editing, I feel like. Some of the CG and the visual effects were a little bit noticeably wire work there. But again, I was so into it that, you know, I was more concerned about Diana being weak and getting shot by bullets. Like, oh my god, Diana, are you okay? Like, that's where I was with the film. And then the light of it, or the beauty and the emotional impact that this film has. There was so much good about this film. So I liked it. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you very much for watching this review with me. I am very happy that I got through it, and we're at 45 minutes. Holy shit, I apologize. I'm sure no one's watched until the end. If anyone is still here watching this, chicken noodles. Because I'll know you watched it because you typed chicken noodles in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.